the Republican Party, as much as it pains me to say this, should be ashamed of themselves.
This from Ronald Reagan's old budget director, architect of the largest tax cut in American history? But he doesn't let the Democrats off the hook. He says he cringes when he hears the president say things like this.
Now, I believe we ought to make the tax cuts for the middle class permanent.
We have now got both parties essentially telling a big lie with a capital B and a capital L to the public. And that is that we can have all this government, 24% of GDP, this huge entitlement program, all of the bailouts, and yet we don't have to tax ourselves and pay our bills. That's delusional.
But the state budget has already been cut by $5 billion, and the governor, Christine Gregoire, says they're at the bone.
To cut people off hospice, I think, is immoral. To cut children off health care, to cut their education so they don't have a chance at a decent future, I think that would result in an immoral budget.
She says she doesn't understand why so many of the state's high-tech CEOs, who are always complaining about the woeful state of American education, are so opposed to paying this tax for schools. These businesses that want the educated workforce, they're against this. What do they say to you when you challenge them on this?
I tell them, I have the utmost respect for them. These are great CEOs. And I say to them, here's the problem. You always want us to invest more in education, and now you say no. So my question to you, if not this, then what? Don't just tell me no.
What do they say? What do they say?
They don't have an answer, Leslie.
The initiative was way ahead in the polls until the opposition started airing ads saying 1098 is a slippery slope.
And can be extended to you in just 2 years.
Polls now show the middle class thinks they too will be hit with income taxes. And the
As you all know, Washington has one of the most regressive tax systems in the entire country. We rank 50th, next to last among the 50 states and the District of Columbia, in the fairness and equality of our tax system. I know everybody here in this room understands this, but I want to be really clear to the people of the state of Washington. This means that those who make the least amount of money pay much larger shares of their income than those with the most resources. Specifically, Washington families whose income is in the bottom 20% pay a whopping 13.8% of their total income in taxes, while those whose income is in the top 1% pay only 4.1% of their income. That is untenable. We are facing an affordability crisis. It is time to change our state's outdated, upside-down tax system to serve the needs of Washingtonians today. To make our tax system more fair, millionaires should contribute more towards our shared prosperity. To be clear, by millionaires, I mean people who make more than $1 million of income in a single year. In other words, it is not individuals whose net worth reaches that amount based on, for example, the value of their home. It's 1 million of income in a single year. In recent years, the inequities of our state's current tax structure have been exacerbated by increasing income inequality, which is made even worse by President Trump's massive tax cuts for the wealthy, an unprecedented upward transfer of wealth that makes the rich even wealthier, while hardworking people are overburdened. To rebalance this unfair system, I support a millionaire's tax. Let's make this historic change in this upcoming legislative session. The specifics will vary depending on the details of the proposal that goes forward, but less than 0.5% of Washingtonians will pay the millionaire's tax, and it will raise at least $3 billion every single year. I understand that individuals who make less than $1 million each year might be skeptical that income tax would never be extended to them. That's why I support codifying the $1 million threshold with appropriate adjustments for inflation into state law. In other words, the millionaire's tax would be paid on income over $1 million in its first year, and while the amount of annual income that triggers the millionaire's tax will rise due to inflation, that amount will never impact 99% of Washingtonians. A constitutional amendment is one way to provide this assurance. I want to be clear that I will not support income tax for people who make less than $1 million in a year. In my view, we must use some of the gains from the millionaire's tax back to working families. And one way to do that is by increasing the eligibility for the working families tax credit and increasing the amount that goes out from the working families tax credit. Just to give you a sense of scale, the program currently provides a maximum tax credit of up to $1,209 per qualifying household, depending, of course, on their income, number of qualifying children, if any. A significant portion of the revenue gained through the millionaire's tax must be used, again, to expand eligibility for that program and increase the amount that individuals receive through that important program. Likewise, gains from the millionaire's tax must be used to reduce taxes on small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy and our communities. They drive economic growth and create jobs. And amid the affordability crisis, many of them are struggling. In my view, we should not require small businesses to pay B&O taxes until they make $1 million in revenue each year. We can achieve this tax reduction for small businesses using approximately $1 billion gained from the millionaire's tax. So I want to be clear, if you put $1 billion in from that revenue, that gets a tax exemption on B&O tax for small business owners up to revenue of $1 million in a year. Obviously, this is scalable, of course. The millionaire's tax should also be used to provide more K-12 funding to bolster Washington's student access to a world-class education. There is nothing more important than providing for our children's future. I would also like to reduce sales taxes in our state. Sales taxes are among the most regressive type of tax because they are levied at a flat rate regardless of how much money you make. In other words, millionaires and non-millionaires pay the same amount of tax on essentials like food, clothing, personal care, and baby products. Those with fewer resources have to spend a larger share of their income on these essentials, meaning that more of their resources are taxed. To improve fairness, I'm interested in exploring the following ideas. Eliminating the sales taxes on essential personal hygiene products, such as shampoo, deodorant, and toothpaste. Eliminating sales taxes on essential baby product, such as diapers, wipes, and infant formula. And eliminating sales taxes on essential and affordable clothing items. Eliminating the sales tax on these items will make our tax system less regressive and make life more affordable for Washingtonians. I know, of course, the legislature will have their own ideas for how a millionaire's tax should serve our state. Many of those ideas are good ones, and reasonable people can disagree on the right balance and how to frame that. I'm looking forward to having continued productive conversations with them. I will, however, remain committed to sending a significant portion of what is gained from millionaire's tax back into the pockets of hardworking Washingtonians to help make life more affordable for them. As the impacts of federal policies ramp up in the coming years, both for vulnerable Washingtonians and for our state budget, we can and must still look ahead. Whether it's accelerating the production and preservation of affordable homes, maintaining and modernizing the transportation system Washingtonians rely on to get to work, to school, and healthcare, maintaining critical investments in our own social safety net, or tackling our inequities in our tax code. All these decisions are driven by the same goals: cause the least amount of harm when making difficult budget decisions, continue to work towards a more economically stable and fair future for us all,